Chief Justice Ayers-Caesar is the youngest person to hold this position, appointed at the age of 47 as the 8th Chief Justice since political independence of the country. Yesterday, the Law Association of Trinidad and Tobago, they passed a motion of no confidence in the Chief Justice. We have Martin George, attorney at law, on the line to give us his take on this state of affairs. Good morning, Mr. George.
Hi, good morning to you, DK, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And DK, in relation to that situation with the ferry, I think it is absolutely untenable that this is allowed to continue. And I think maybe in the same way that the Law Association has used its authority to call for some accountability, I think the nation needs to call upon the government for some kind of accountability in terms of this ferry fiasco.
Normally, I try not to comment and try to draw responses from respondents, but at the same time, I think it seems as though it's almost boiling down to disrespect and a matter of cutting off your nose to spoil your face.
Yes, it really is something that there's absolutely no logical explanation. You are hearing conflicting reports coming out from the bowels of the government, and you wonder if it is that they instead of coming out from their mouth, it should be coming out from the other end. Because, I mean, nothing they say makes any sense in terms of the disaster that they have visited upon the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and more particularly the people of Tobago in terms of this very situation. And there's absolutely no excuse for it. It is totally inexcusable. How could you have persons there on the ferry since 4 p.m. yesterday? And I think it's not even confirmed yet that they have actually departed Port of Spain yet. I think they were scheduled to try and depart this morning. But, I mean, this is oppression. It is oppression, and, it is almost a violation of persons, basically like your constitutional rights to freedom of movement. It's absurd. It really is. I mean, I'm sorry to digress, but I always try to speak up for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and more particularly the people of Tobago. And I think they really need someone to start championing this cause in some meaningful way that can bring about results, because it's clear that the government appears clueless and unable to manage a simple situation of getting a ferry service effectively running between Trinidad and Tobago. Look at the short distance,
And what I find interesting is the positions that we have certain people like the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice. You would think that the situations or positions where people have a level of influence that they would say, sort this out for me, please.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the newspapers have reported that the Prime Minister is supposed to be from Tobago, but the thing is, I don't see any indication that he's standing in solidarity or empathy at all with the people of Tobago in this regard, and I find that most disheartening. It is most disheartening. It appears that, the people of Tobago have seen no benefit from, his apparent influence in this scenario. And that's very troubling. I think for all of us as a nation, we ought to be asking some serious, hard questions as to what is being done. The economy in Tobago is being destroyed as a result of this fiasco.
But also from Tobago, Mr. George, is the Chief Justice, Ayers-Caesar. What are your thoughts on the motion of no confidence being passed?
Well, it is so unfortunate, DK, that this situation had to come to a head like this. And, it has nothing to do with whether he's from Tobago, whether, that's irrelevant in the scenario, with the greatest of respect. But the point is, when one considers that there have been several opportunities for a mea culpa to have been, forthcoming from the powers that be in terms of this entire fiasco. And I just want to caution the nation to bear in mind the very clear and specific wording of the resolutions which were passed by the Law Association. The Law Association did not seek to broaden the ambit of these resolutions, in terms of a general performance rating or general performance approval. What they said, the resolution specifically related to the loss of confidence in the Chief Justice, loss of confidence in the JLSC in terms of how they handled the Marcia Ayers-Caesar scenario. So it was very specific in terms of how the Chief Justice and the JLSC handled this scenario. And this, I think, is the nub of the issue, because when you consider the fact that up to this point, there appears to be no acknowledgement of fault on their part, I think that's where you rarely had persons asking some serious questions. And I mean, the point is, we may never know all that transpired, but I think persons felt that the explanations, even up to the last minute, statement that was issued on the eve of this vote, it appeared to be almost a type of Nixon-Watergate situation. If you recall, Richard Nixon, in his last hours of desperation, he basically was seeking to throw everybody else under the bus, in an attempt to save himself. And, when you look at that, the statement that was issued, I saw mention of the president, and, it appeared in a very, curious way to be shifting responsibility. To say, well, the president is the one who appoints. But, the thing is, that is little more than a fig leaf of an explanation, because at the end of the day, we all know in these scenarios, the president is entitled to rely upon constitutionally appointed bodies in terms of their recommendations. So, I'm not even sure that really helped the scenario. In fact, it may have harmed it, even more, because, you could have a situation where basically now the highest office in the land is almost in a side swipe being, drawn into this imbroglio. Unnecessarily, it may seem.
But it seems as though there were so many opportunities to go a different way. What do you think could have been done differently to have the best outcome after the appointment and resignation?
Well, the thing is, DK, if one recalls, at the opening of the law term each year, you have statistics read out, you have statements read out as to how many cases have been dealt with, how many cases have passed through the High Court, how many cases have passed through the magistracy, how many cases are pending, how many, so in other words, the availability of statistics and information is always within your purview and your authority and your jurisdiction. So therefore, when it came to a scenario of, well, okay, what was the real situation in terms of the number of pending cases that the former chief magistrate had, I think that's where the disingenuity started, when you saw, well, it appeared that blame was shifted to the chief magistrate herself, that she may not have been as forthcoming or, as transparent as she ought to have been. But the point is, at no time was there any manning up to say, well, look, maybe there were things we could have done better, maybe there were things we could have done more thoroughly. And I think if you listen to Mr. Martin Daly and his criticism of it from the get-go, that has been his point, in that he's consistently said there's been no seeking of, and to use his, unique terminology, he says, I beg pardon. In other words, let us be honest as big people. Let us all be, aware that, look, it's human. That's human nature. So in other words, there's nothing wrong in a scenario if you say, well, look, hey, in hindsight, which, gives us 20/20 vision, I could have done this better. I could have been more thorough in my checks. I should have done ABC. And you come and you level with the public. And I think that's what, has been lacking from the get-go. So therefore, it has resulted in this situation.
Now, the Law Association was very specific, and you underlined that this morning, that the resolutions deal specifically with the handling of this issue. What does that mean for the rest of operations in a general manner?
Well, the difficulty is that while the vote of no confidence relates to the handling of this specific issue, unfortunately, when you have basically your largest single professional stakeholder in the judicial system saying, look, we have no confidence in you because of how you handled a particular situation, it creates a scenario of immense discomfort. How then do you continue to have the moral authority? And we're not talking legal here at all. There's absolutely no legal effect to the vote that took place yesterday. However, the moral authority to lead, the moral authority to sit and preside, because when you sit there in that position, you are basically, determining people's futures, people's cases, So how then do you continue with the moral authority to lead in such a circumstance, even among your own judges of the High Court and the judges of the Court of Appeal? How do you look them in the eye with confidence to say, well, look, I still have the moral authority to lead you? How do you inspire confidence among your own troops in the judiciary for them to rally to say, well, look, yes, we feel confident, notwithstanding the fact that the largest professional constituent stakeholder in the judiciary has passed, overwhelmingly. And, that's the next thing. We have to look at the figures. The figures were not, it's not like a close margin. It's an overwhelming, in some cases it's like 2-1. So therefore, it's not an insignificant occasion, it's not an insignificant expression of a lack of confidence.
And that remains the question. Thank you very much, Martin George, for your insight. And I take your gentle admonition, I affirm it, but it was just, I too believe that it has the birthplace or the location or the origins of the Chief Justice have nothing to do with what we're dealing with now. I just use it as a jump-off point to go from one important situation to another important situation. I just want to say that categorically.
I just wanted to make it clear because I have seen persons commenting on social media, and making reference to, the fact that he's from Tobago, and I think that has nothing to do with the issue at all.
All right. Thank you so much.